So anyways, today's adventure is going to take us this place right here, which you can see the mound behind me. This is Fort Griswold in Groton, Connecticut. This is going to give us a story, an epic story. And I said, no, this is going to be a legendary story, a historical story. It's got everything in it. It's got tyranny, revolution, tyrants, traitors, patriots, and even murder. So we're going to come in here, we're going to check this out. Come on with me. All right, folks, so right here, this is a list of all the defenders of Fort Griswold. Now, right here, this top section are the people who were killed. Right here, in this section, were the wounded and paroled. And here down are prisoners that were taken away. And I'll try and scroll it, so if you guys want, and hopefully the sun cooperates, and if you guys want to pause and check it out, then go for it. Hopefully I'm getting it all for you. So now, as you remember, on part of this I said wounded and paroled. Now the wounded and paroled, what that means, paroled, is sometimes you're wounded, you can't walk, this and that, this and that. So what they end up doing is you're going to be more of a pain in the butt to try and get to the ship and everything and do what you got to do and take a prisoner. So when you're paroled, basically what that meant was the enemy took you, you were captured and everything, but then you promise the enemy that that they'll release you and you will never take up arms against them again. So this would happen quite often. You know, you're paroled, you take off, meet up with your boys, or you give me a gun, boom, and you're going back to war. So anyways, but that's what the part wounded and paroled means. So let's go in and check out the rest. All right, folk. Now, before we start with the story and everything, I want you to put your bifocals of 1781 on. And all this area here, all this stuff, all these houses, all the trees, you got EB, you know, Pfizer and all these businesses over here. None of this was here. So back then, you had a perfect view right here of Long Island Sound, you know? And that's one of the things that made this place so strategic. You have the high ground here, you know, and this is where everybody would come in. Across the way, you have Fort Trumbull, which is also part of this story, and it may look very impressive today. It's a large concrete fortress, but it wasn't like that back then. It was just like a reed where there were cannons there. They would shoot upon enemy ships as they were coming in, but once they landed, Fort Trumbull was not a defendable place. The back was all open and everything, and that's going to be part of the story as we go on. But I just want to show you, as the story starts, the area we're at right now. All right, Pope. Well, let's get started with our story now. Now you got to figure this is taking place September 6th, 1781. What happened is the night before, Benedict Arnold, the traitorous, loyalist British general, he, out of the cover of dark, left New York to come up here because he wanted to sack New London and everything. This was a strategic spot. It really, from here, they would go and really bother the British fleet and stuff like that, you know. So he got here, and you got to remember, Benedict Arnold was born in Norwich, about 12 miles up the way. So he knows this area well. And the British had their loyalists and their spies and everything out here during the war. They had plenty of traders here backing them up. Now, one of the things that would happen is when a ship came in, you know, they had signals. Colonel Ledyard, who commanded this fort, Fort Griswold. Fort Griswold is named after, I believe, the mayor at the time. I believe it was the mayor. And Colonel Ledyard is the one who commanded this fort. So what would happen is ships would come in, and there was signal fire, like with cannons, to determine who it was. Now, they see the enemy ship comes in, okay? You have quite a few ships. I forget exactly how many ships it was, but he comes in with a few ships, right? Somebody spots the ships. They do the signal. The signal is 2 shots from a cannon. So 2 cannon shoot, boom, boom. And what that meant was the enemy ships in port, you know. Hurry up, everybody come and rally at the fort. Now, Benedict Arnold knew the signal was 2 shots. So what he had one of his men do is when they did the 2 shots, the 2 cannon shots here at the fort, he had one of his guys do another cannon shot. So that made it be like 3 cannon shots. Now, 3 cannon shots meant a friendly was coming into port. So now this confused everybody. So a lot of people just went back to their normal everyday, oh, it's 3, somebody's coming in, oh, no biggie. That confused the militia. The militia didn't necessarily show up. So now Benedict Arnold lands. Now Benedict Arnold lands on the New London side. And he takes about 800 men, and he's going in there ransacking everything. I think he started burning everything down. Like 165 buildings were destroyed, something like that. 150 buildings, I think 65 of them homes. You know, he just burnt New London down. Now, Fort Trumbull across the way, I believe they did like a volley. They shot a volley and everything. And then they just hauled booty out of there. They got to the boats and rowed their way across the river over to Fort Griswold to make a stand here. Because as previously mentioned, Fort Trumbull was not defendable once they landed. So they get here. And you had Major Montgomery and Colonel Ayers land on this side with another 800 men. So now some of the local folks, some of the militia, some of the locals, the volunteers and everything, they gathered at the fort, to see what the heck was going on with the cannon fire. So all in all, it ended up being like 165 men, 165, 166 people that rallied here. So now at this time, Colonel Ledyard holds a council of war, and he's aware there's no way we're holding this fort with the force we have. You have 800 men coming up, but at the time, like I said, you got to put on your bifocals in 1781. None of this stuff was here, and this was all marshland and everything that they had to get through. Now the infantry was working their way up. The artillery was kind of getting stuck back there, and infantry was getting ahead of them. Also, it was a hot September day, humid in New England, and these guys are all in their fancy British dressed up suits and everything, and they're on their way. So, one of the guys convinced Colonel Ledyard, he said, listen, I could take off, go down here in about 15, 20 minutes, talk to the militia and get them over here. That's 200-300 men. So now Colonel Ledyard's thinking is like, wait a minute, 460, now that's doable. So he's thinking, all right, we're going to hold the fort. All right. So the British come and they give him, under the white flag, they give him the ultimatum. They say, surrender the fort. And if you do not surrender the fort, if you make us come up here and take this fort, we are going to give no quarter. And for those who aren't aware of what no quarter is, whoever survives, the defenders in here, whoever survives the assault is going to be put to death. So the reply of Colonel Ledyard is, we will not surrender the fort. Let the consequences be as they are. So, all right. Now the British is like, that's it. We got attacked, right? So, the British are coming up, and they're repelled. They're repelled back. And they gather their forces again, and they come back again. And they're pushed back. Now, during this battle, Colonel Ayers is mortally wounded. He's taken off the battlefield, and his wounds ended up being mortal. He died. And Montgomery tried to get up the ramparts and everything, and he was met with, I believe, a 40-foot pike, and he was stabbed and killed. And he met his doom from a freed slave, an African-American named Jordan Freeman. And Jordan Freeman was also like Colonel Ledyard's body servant, his bodyguard, whatever. He was always around them, taking care of his every needs and everything, you know. There are also, in fact, there was actually 2 African Americans who fought in the battle, and also a Native American that fought in the battle, a Pequot to be exact. So now I'm going to take you around the fort and everything, and some of the story that I've told you. I'm going to show you some of the spots that it took place in. Also, the story's not over, because there's still the story of Colonel Ledyard and the 88 men. So we're going to get to that as we go into the fort. Be right back with you, folk. All right, folk. So as I was telling you, Major Montgomery, he led an assault coming over the ramparts here. And this is the area where he died. They have a rock to, you know, commemorate or remember where he fell that day. And this is also a spot where Jordan Freeman, the freed slave, I believe it was a 40-foot freaking pike. And he's coming over the rampart and just, he got it. The guy got him right there. This is where he fell. And so you got to figure, after that happened, I believe, after the second assault. I believe Ayers went down on the second assault, I believe. So now, after the second assault, your 2 highest-ranking officers have bit the dust. So now the British are actually not, I don't think the morale is all this high right now. And remember, this is 166 men. The militia didn't show up, okay? So this is 166 men in here. This may look like a formidable place, but it's actually, it was a bit weaker than it looks due to the fact that it was undermanned, undergunned, and really lacking ammunition for the cannons. And when it comes to cannons and everything, we're going to have a little story on them too down there. Now we're going to go to the other side of the fort, the front, where the story, this is where it gets a little hairy. It says this is a very infamous moment in history of the Revolutionary War. I'll be right back with you. We're going to go over there. All right, folks. All right, folks. So we've covered when the battle started, when Benedict Arnold landed on that side, Montgomery and Ayers on this side attacked. Both of the highest ranked officers are gone now, and these guys have been repelled twice. Morale's not looking good in the English camp right now. All right, so now the English are back to like, man, I don't know. Are we going to continue this or what, you know? So, anyways, the American flag over here. Here, I'm going to pick you guys up for a minute. There we go. There's Old Glory, still flying. The American flag, pretty much basically was in the same spot, relatively the same spot back then as well. Let me get you guys back over here. All right. So what happened is, there's a few volleys being, they're still fighting. And a musket fire, the round went and hit the rope and everything. I forget the technical name. I studied this last night and I forget the technical name. But anyways, it hit the rope and the flag came down. Now, as the custom was back then, the commander would lower the flag and strike the colors, and that would be a sign that he is surrendering the fort. So anyways, musket fire hits it just by chance, and the flag falls. So the British are like, oh yeah, they're surrendering. So they're coming up, running up the hill. Oh yeah, we won. Now, the Americans, they got a big old pike, put the flag back up on the pike and raised it up. So now the British are going up, boom, boom, boom. They just fire a volley into them, and these guys, like the last couple of attempts, are taking heavy casualties. This infuriated the British, infuriated them. That was a no-no back then. You surrendered, we're coming up, and now you're shooting on us? Oh, no, 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 no. They thought that it was a surrender. So that infuriated them, made them fight 10 times worse, and they just kept coming. And then finally, they came over on one of these areas here, and were able to get through the pickets. I'm going to show you on the outside here as well. On the outside of the earthworks, you have to remember back then there would be big pikes sticking out, okay, to help impede the enemies coming in. So you would have these big, huge, pikes, sharp, big, huge logs sharpened at the end, sticking out of the earthworks. So anyways, these guys made it up over here, and were able to capture one of the cannons and then turn the cannon on the fort itself. Now, as this is happening also, you got right over here. And let me turn you around for this too as well. Right over here. Here's, I believe right here back then there would have been like two iron gates or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So this is where they came in. They were able to overrun and come in there. So now as they get in, the fort's being taken. Colonel Ledger tells his men, all right, chill, we're surrendering. This is it. We're done. So the men are laying down their guns and everything. The British obviously overtake the fort. So the officer in charge now, since Montgomery and Ayers are dead, he comes in and he asks a question. Who commands this fort? So Colonel Ledger came up. He goes, I did, but now you do. And as custom dictates back then, offered him his sword. So as the legend goes, that officer grabs a sword and then runs him through. And as previously mentioned, no quarter. A lot of the survivors and everything, they just start opening fire. They just start bayoneting, sorting the remaining, patriots that were here, who are unarmed now. They put their weapons down. So they're going around stabbing, shooting the remaining people. Now, I believe, don't quote me, I believe it was about maybe 5 in the fort dead at the time, a couple wounded, 16 wounded or so. I may be wrong. I think it's about 5 dead, 16 wounded in the fort. The British took far more heavier cavalry casualties taking it. So now, by the end of the massacre by giving them no quarter, 88 men lay dead. I mean, they were running. As I told you here, this granite outline is where the old barracks were. So you had men running into the barracks trying to hide. So they were also running over here, an area I'm going to walk to and show you. So remember, that was like the powder room for this area. Powder room being where they kept the powder for the muskets and the the cannons. They were running in there, they were running in the barracks, and one of the officers told they were even shooting at the guys in the powder area. And the officer was like, you will cease and desist now, or surely you will blow us all to hell. So anyways, 13 men were able to run and escape. Another person was released and allowed to leave, and that was a 12-year-old boy. The 12-year-old boy kind of got stuck here in a battle. He came up with his father after the original cannon shots for the signal, and he kind of got stuck here in a battle, and he just ran around carrying powder to everybody, you know. So yeah, that's what happened here. They were massacred. Then. As I showed you on the plaque out there, I want to say it was about 88 dead, I believe about 35 wounded that could not walk or anything, and then like 33 wounded and whatnot that were taken prisoner. And they were put on a boat, brought to the ships, and actually taken prisoner. The other ones are, as I told you before, paroled, which means you're not going to come back and fight us again. And one of the things, another legend of that happened was they were put on like an old a wagon, and either it accidentally got rolled down the hill or was pushed down the hill, and they crashed into a tree, got wounded even worse, hurt even worse. They were already suffering. And there is a place called the Ebenezer house, which hopefully I could get a shot of, and that's where those guys were brought. And they were basically brought to that house. I forget his name, something Ebenezer, and I believe it was like he was related to Colonel Ledyard or something, so maybe it was Ebenezer Ledyard, I don't know. But he came and said, if you will let these guys be, you can take me as prisoner. And the British agreed. And they brought him to his house where they were taken care of, and they were just, it's not like, here, sit down, buddy. No, they were just thrown in there, thrown on the floor, you live or die, whatever, we're out. So that's what happened with them. So here's a spot right here where Colonel Ledyard was run through with his own sword after surrendering. So now I'm going to walk around the fort. There's some pretty interesting stuff about the fort and everything I'm going to show you and talk about. And that will probably be the end of this. And I'll be right back with you, folk. All right, so we're coming up on this spot right here. This is the original well that was here back in the day where they got their water and all that. So just so I showed you out, this is the well inside the fort. And this is... So we're in here, so as you can see, it's stone. It is an earth-mound fort. There's also stone everything on the outside. So you're coming in here, and I'm sure you could imagine, you know, you got some platforms and everything back then. So picture like right here, you know, you got a cannon up here, so the cannoneers able to shoot, hey, there's a ship, boom. You know, you also got musket fire. So also we'll climb up the rampart a little bit, and you can see down there you got a dry moat as well. And we're going to be heading down there, and I'm going to tell you a bit about that spot down there too. All right, so this area is directly in front of the fort. This is where you're entering the fort now. And this area right here, that you can see this another earth mound here, this is called a reed. And basically all this, well, now you figure, see, it's a V, all right? This is basically what Fort Trumbull was at the time. Just a really big one of these, okay? And basically what this area is for, you got a couple guys over here. You got cannons, maybe 3, 4, 5 cannons. You've got some militiamen with muskets. And basically, they're defending the fort. They're going to fire upon the enemy and everything. And as previously mentioned, don't forget, all these houses and trees and everything's gone. This was all open land. So they're firing on the enemy and everything. If the enemy is advancing and getting too close, well, then they gather their stuff, they gather the cannons, and hightail it right back in there into the fort. I'll come down here and show you a bit more of the moat and the earthbound structure. That was the fort. So here you go, you got a dry moat. You know, so they're coming down. They got to go in there. They got to get over the brick, and then they got to get over this big earthbound to get in there. Now remember also that there's erosion and all sorts of other stuff that has happened to the earth mound. This was much higher. And also, as I said before, remember, you have all sorts of wooden pikes sticking out of there, sharpened at the end. So it's going to be pretty hard to get in there. All right, so as I was telling you the story about Colonel Ledyard being run through, and then I told you a lot of the guys ran to the powder room. This is the area here. So here's a powder room. And as you can see over there is where Colonel Ledyard died. There's the stone commemorating him. So I figured I'd show you that real quick. Now over here you got an area called the tunnel. And there's a little thing about this I'm going to tell you, which is pretty cool as well. So hold on a sec. I'll be right back with you, folks. Let me switch you around. All right, folks. Now we are in a spot called the tunnel. Now what the tunnel is it leads to the inside of the fort, which I am going to walk through because there's a point that needs to be made about this. And they could leave the fort, and I'm going to show you this area too. We're going to walk down this area, and it leads to a spot called the Covered Way. Now what this is this is a tunnel, boom, coming out of the fort. It goes down here. I'm going to show you this area called the Covered Way. It's called the Covered Way because it would give the troops cover from enemy fire as they were running from the battery down there by the river where a lot of cannons were and everything to and fro. So we're going to show you that, and I'm going to show you a part. We're going to walk through the tunnel because I'm going to explain this to you and you'll see for yourself. But when you go through this tunnel, it's not a straight tunnel, like from here straight ahead. What they did is it's kind of got a curve in it, almost like an S. That was done on purpose, and the reason being is nobody could be on this end of the tunnel with a bunch of muskets and just fire straight into the fort. So they made it with that S curve there so they couldn't just fire straight in. We're going to go through, and I'll show you the tunnel. All right, so here you go, folks. We're going to go in the tunnel. And as you can see, we're in the tunnel, and you can't see into the fort. So then you come over here, and you can barely see into the fort. Boom, you get over here. Now you're at the fort. So that's the tunnel that leads to the Covered Way, and that's where we're going right now, to the Covered Way, to go down to the battery by the river. All right, folks. Okay, folks, so as you see, we are now outside of the fort. There's a tunnel going into the fort. So you come down this little path here. There's the lower battery down by the river. We're going to explain about these two buildings here as well. So that's the lower battery. And this is the Covered Way. So they would come out of the tunnel and come down this path here, which, man, I hope it was a lot better path than that back then. Maybe this is all erosion, who knows. So leave the tunnel, come down here, and as you can see, now they have cover from enemy fire. You know, good stone walls, as New Englanders are good at. We always had enough granite and stone. So we're coming down, and we're going to shoot all the way down there, and I'll show you what it's like once we get down there later. Also, here's something else I want to show you. Hopefully you guys can see these pretty good. I'm going to try and push it down without getting poked and everything. But you see these, and you see the thorns on them? There's a lot of thorns and prickers and stuff on them. On it right here. Hopefully you can see it. I don't know. You got another one right here. A lot of thorns, prickers, everything. Well, a lot of that stuff right there was thrown up where the big pikes would be and everything along the earthbound. So you would have the big pikes, you had the earthbound, you had the dry moat, you had people shooting at you, and you had a bunch of, they would pick these things and put them all over the fort. So now you had to get through the prickers and the briars and everything as well. All right, so we're coming out to the end of the covered way. Now, as you can see, as time has gone on, erosion and so forth, parts of the wall have started falling in and everything. So I am quite sure this path, I'm gonna spin around real quick. I am sure this path was a lot different back then. I'm thinking erosion, people walking on it a lot and everything has changed it. Because I'll be honest with you, in the condition it's in, there's absolutely no way you have your musket in your hand, you're carrying some powder, maybe, whatever it is you're doing, you're running, hustling to get down to the lower battery into battle, and you have to run down here. You're not doing it without falling. All right, so we're gonna leave this area here. We're coming down there, gotta explain these couple of buildings and that whole lower battery down there. All right, folk, be right back. All right, so here we are now, folk, at the lower battery. And we're gonna come upon this little place right here. This is called a shot furnace. We're gonna get down there and I'll tell you all about it. All right, folk, here we go. So this is the shot furnace. So it's looking at me like down here, probably loaded a bunch of stuff up there, wood and everything, get the fire going real good. Now you're coming over here, or maybe you loaded up the wood and everything here. I don't know how this thing worked. But anyways, it's the shot furnace. And the point of this building is you'd have the fire going in there and whatnot, and what you do is you'd put your cannonballs in there. Now your cannonballs are gonna get insanely hot. So then they come and they get the cannonballs out of there. And as you can see, up here's where all the cannons were, and we're gonna go up there. Now this building right here was the powder area where the powder for the cannons and everything were. So anyways, back to shot furnace. The cannonballs would get so hot, they put them in the cannon, shoot it, and then when it would hit the wooden ship would be set ablaze. So that's what that building was for. Now we come over to this one. Okay, so here you go. This is a powder magazine, which, as its name suggests, is where the gunpowder was stored. And big old lock on it, so I guess we're not going in. And let's see if we can peek in through here. Well, kind of, sort of, but they got these slits in here, but I guess it's kind of smart. They make it so you can't shoot in there. So anyways, this is the powder magazine where they had the powder for the guns. So let's go on up here and check out where the artillery was. All right, folks, here we are. We are now on the lower battery. I'll spin you around. Obviously right up here, it's Fort Griswold. We've walked through the covered way down here, and now we're on the lower battery, you know, and here's the Thames River. So you have guns right here. Now, okay, and there are a few more down there. So basically now you're able to tear up anything that's just coming through the Thames River here. And then you got them over there, so you're able to, and don't forget, aerodynamics and everything is not here then, so you're able to shoot over to the sound Now, as time has gone on, Fort Griswold went through some changes. So when we first came in, and I was at the gates, I showed you the plaque about the 88 who died, the survivors and the parolees and all that stuff. Well, in that area, those cannons were pretty much the ones that were here, I believe. And as time goes on, they were upgraded and so forth, you know, Spanish-American War, this and that. And the Army would continue to upgrade. But so here you go. These are different. This is where the bigger guns after a while were mounted. And I have a picture of the guns that were mounted here that I'll show you as well. And here you go. So let me back up over here a bit, give you a better view. So right here, you have a track. And it would go, so the gun was mounted there, but these guns moved. And they were much bigger than the regular cannons. So you could move and aim. And these are the tracks that the back part of it would be on and pivoting. So this is a lower battery where cannons and so forth would be down here to defend. All right, folks, here you go. Now this is the Ebenezer Avery house. And I was telling you about the wounded that couldn't walk and everything, and that they were left here at this house. They were just left unattended, and then they went on their way to go burn up and destroy everything. They tried to set fire to this house and everything. So this is where this is the house that helped the surviving wounded. All right, so now, as you can see, hopefully you can see, I don't know if you can see the picture of this, but this is one heck of a hill. So try to imagine you're some British guy trying to take this fort, and you've got to run up this hill. I mean, look at this guy jogging. Maybe that'll help you out a little bit to see how hard this must have been. You got this guy jogging up the hill. So here you are. You're carrying your gear. You got your fancy British Army uniform on. It's a hot, humid September day in Connecticut. And you've got cannonballs. You've got musket fire just all around you. And you have to get up this big dang hill and try to take this freaking fort. Just to put into perspective what these guys went through, along with the patriots inside. Well, unfortunately, it looks like we can't go into the monument, which itself is pretty spectacular. And all right, folks, it has a plaque up here. It says this monument was erected under the patronage of the state of Connecticut, AD 1830, and in the 55th year of the independence of the USA, in memory of the brave patriots who fell in the massacre at Fort Griswold near this spot on the 6th of September, AD 1781. When the British, under the command of the traitor Benedict Arnold, burnt the towns of New London and Groton and spread desolation and woe throughout this region. Well, folk, all right. I hope I pretty much nailed that freaking video. I sat there and I was actually studying. I've been studying up on it for like a month. For the past 3 days, I've been watching like the same video and the same, reading the same stuff, trying to get it all in my head. And I think I nailed it pretty good. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been looking forward to doing this video. And I'm pretty proud. I think it's a pretty good one. Hopefully you think so too, and hopefully you enjoy it. But I think that's pretty much going to be about it for this one. So now I'm done with this. It's off to go see my sister, take off to her house. And that's going to be about it. So, till next time, don't forget, always forward to the next adventure. The vlog is down.